Good evening and thank you for joining us. For the first time, a Canadian has joined the ranks of the literary masters. Alice Munro was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature today. She's the 13th woman to win. Her works have received widespread acclaim. One reviewer saying she is the living writer most likely to be read in 100 years. Mike Drolet has more on what makes her writing so special.
In her books, Alice Munro's writing so often captured that moment of sudden revelation. Early this morning in Sweden, the literary world had its own epiphany that even at 82, few can match her ability to put word to paper.
The Nobel Prize in Literature for 2013 is awarded the Canadian author Alice Munro, master of the contemporary short story.
There was no shortlist for the Nobel, so no indication as to whose name would be called. Munro was at home in Victoria, first reached with the news by the media.
I'm delighted, of course, and I'm just terribly surprised. It's quite wonderful.
After her first set of stories won the Governor General's Award, there was much pressure to write the next great novel. She tried and failed, and for a short time stopped writing until her publisher stepped in.
I said, Alice, they're all wrong. You're a great short story writer. If you want to go on writing short stories for the rest of your life, I'll go on publishing them. That was 14 collections ago, and it's worked out not too badly.
Munro was born in Wingham, Ontario, which celebrates her as its most famous daughter. It's there, as a child, she caught the writing bug after reading Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid.
I can't remember when I didn't make up stories. I don't think I called it writing.
After university, she moved out to Victoria with her husband, opened a bookstore, and started writing. But even though she lived on the West Coast, her stories and characters were rooted in Huron County, Ontario.
I think that there's something really spectacularly perfect even about the way in which this very modest and humble writer has managed to represent to the world at large the very modest humility of life in a small town in Ontario.
After her divorce, she moved back to Ontario, remarried, and settled in Clinton, where she penned most of her works.
It's very exciting news. It's wonderful for Alice. It's a great personal achievement for her.
At 82, and with her husband having just died a few months ago, Munro has shied away from the spotlight. She announced earlier this year she had retired from writing, but now, with the December Nobel ceremony looming, she says she may change her mind. Mike Drolet, Global News, Toronto.
The Nobel Prize also comes with a pretty hefty paycheck. Munro will receive roughly $1.3 million. And on Twitter, accolades have been pouring in all day. The Prime Minister quoted the committee's description of her as the master of the contemporary story. Fellow Canadian author Margaret Atwood couldn't resist some humor, urging the reclusive Munro to come out from behind the tool shed and pick up the phone. Author Salman Rushdie called her a true master of the form. And actress and director Sarah Polley summed it up saying, "It is lovely when people who don't seek recognition get it anyway." Polley's film Away From Her was based on one of Munro's short stories. And we'll hear some passages from Munro's work later in the show. We also have a full profile on our website, globalnews.ca. Bookstores are scrambling to bring in more of her books, and already her publisher is printing more copies. We spent the day talking to Canadians about why her writing is so inspiring.
Faith? Ah, yes. So it all comes down to faith in daily matters, in her whole life. I'm just really overwhelmed and really happy for Ms. Munro.
She's just a darn good writer. Good book with well-written prose. You can't lose.
It's great. Hope it'll inspire people to read her books and to write.
All this seemed to grow up around us, created by his monotonous, meticulously remembering voice, and we could see it. Reading Munro for me, I start the sentence, and it's as if I plunge into the world, and then I'm no longer aware of myself reading. I'm just in the world.
People are starting to go in now, so there won't be many left soon.
Stories that could be happening in any community in Canada, and they're real to life.
He thought maybe she was joking when she proposed to him on a cold, bright day on the beach at Port Stanley. Sand was stinging their faces, and the waves delivered crashing loads of gravel at their feet. "Do you think it would be fun," Fiona shouted, Do you think it would be fun if we got married? He took her up on it. He shouted yes. He never wanted to be far away from her. She had the spark of life. I think there are few writers today who can write about the human condition with the wisdom and grace that Alice Munro can do it.